Hello, welcome to this video. My name is Allie with A. Marie Speaks, and going to do another kind of personal vlog video about the spiritual journey. This is, it's hard to talk about, but I'm just going to try anyways. And I mean, who cares? Who hears and listens? Because these things, like, it comes down to, it's not even about trying to shift or change others or impact others or anything like that. It's really so personal, and it's really such an inside job. Happiness. And for someone like me, it's always seemed to be an out of reach destination. And it's so funny because it's not out of reach at all. It's, in fact, just buried very deeply within me. And because of that, the quest is even more difficult, because you can't plan to go anywhere. You can't have some outer force of recognition. You don't have some savior leading the way, with a lead, like bringing you along. It doesn't work that way. And in fact, if it was that way, you wouldn't even be finding happiness. It's not there. It's not found there. So it's just hard to come to terms with you being your own biggest problem, you being the one in your way, you being the one who determines your mood, your happiness, your responses to things. It's so easy. It really is so lazy and simple to blame others, to scapegoat others, to say, oh, they have caused me unhappiness, they have made me mad, they have knocked me off balance. And that's really not fair, And excuse me for the emotions of it all, but it really is super trying. And for someone like me, I mean, for all of us, I really think all of us are the same. We just have different filters, different barriers and checkpoints. And I want to relinquish mine. I want to be transparent. I want to be honest. I want my days to be my best days, filled with happiness and peace and gratitude. I'm not saying I don't want catalysts or obstacles or difficulties, challenges, you know. But I want to make them. I want to determine which is which and when. You know, that's what it comes down to. And obviously the world doesn't work like that, right? We have so many people to deal with, different types of individuals out here. And it's part of the game, part of the challenge is it's that point that you don't have control over what you bump into. You don't have control over others. Their perspectives, their assumptions, you know, their work ethic, their transparency, their honesty. And that can be very frustrating to me when I want to be doing that. You know, I feel like, oh, now it's taken away from my job, but it really hasn't. And I'm allowing, you know, their reflections to taint my image, and then taking on that image for myself and displaying it, and what, for proof that to let them know by confirmation that they piss me off, you know, like, or that their actions are unwanted or uncalled for, or, you know, are abusive and harmful. It's like, how can we respond to these things positively, passively, honestly, without moving through the emotions, without feeling them, without having those responses? Even though they're responses I don't want to have, even though as I'm having these responses and this ugliness, this hatred, this anger, frustration, annoyance, you know, repulsion, all these different feelings. It's like I feel them, and I feel them almost like an observer, third-party self being like, half of me is wrapped up in them, half of me is vomiting them out, like, to get them out. But the other half of me is like, relax, let it go. It's not real. It's not that important. It's not that dire. It doesn't need to feel that way. You don't need to overexcite it. You don't need to play into it. You don't need to amp it up and turn the volume up on it. But there's the other hand doing it anyways, pulling that lever, doing, you know. And then there's the justification. There's the excuses on my behalf. There's those shadowed, whispered, egotistical replies and responses that say, if you have to teach them a lesson through this response, if they don't see you respond in this categorical way, they won't know they upset you. They won't know what they're doing is wrong. They won't know they. And it's just, why am I even caring? I can't change their perspective. I can't even change why they made the choices that they make. You know? But grin and bear it, turn the other cheek, is some really hard work. It's some of the hardest things I think I've ever tried to take on in my life. And it's like that compassion, that empathy, that transparency, that fluidity and flexibility. You know, I'm working to offer to myself, to learn how to offer to others. And it is hard, it was hard, it's been hard to do it for my own self, to do it for my shadow, to do it for these parts of myself that I thought I broke out of, I thought I got away from, I've risen up out of, you know, and yet it's still there. I think back to times when my children were small, and the discipline and the authoritative justification that I did everything with, and I really lived with. And it seemed so right to me. It seemed so, that's what the responses are. You know, everything has a consequence. And as a parent, you're sort of the dealer of the consequences. And I think for so many years, you know, I've been in that role with small children, with smaller minds, you know, depending on me. And my husband, of course. And it seemed so simple. It seemed so true and right. But as they've gotten older, and, you know, 11 and 19 now, things have changed. Things are not so cut and dry. It's not like, here's the action, if you do it, here's the consequence. and sometimes the consequences are good and sometimes they're bad, and you know, if you don't listen, if you don't follow the rules, there's a timeout. You know, it's the gray spectrum of reality is not like that at all. Opening up myself to spiritual journey, to looking for the higher path, the narrow path, put my best foot forward, treat others the way I want to be treated. These types of truths require different responses. It's every time is different. You can't set rules, you can't set consequences, you can't stand by something, because each walk up to each moment is different, and each thing would now require a different decision and a different choice. And that means, you know, I have to let go of control. I have to relinquish that sort of authoritative managerial mind that I have. And, you know, these last couple of years has really sort of been a peeling back of these kind of layers, and a noticing of these things. And it puts so much more actually in my hands than it ever before, because before I just go to the rules. Before I just know this, you know, you had these sort of outside points that each markers, cookie cutter things, and I'm, you know, hearing to myself so much of that negativity, so much of that constructing that isn't fair, you know, and I don't want to be a part of. And yet there's an overwhelm with the freedom that comes with seeking positive service, seeking really the best for yourself. That I don't for certain know how to go about doing, you know. And for someone like me who likes to know what they're doing, creates a bit of creates a lot of feelings. It creates a lot of feedback. It creates a lot of emotions and different energy eddies like whirling around that, more and more I have to lean into Creator. I have to lean into God, into the Holy Spirit, into my higher self, and know that those are all one thing, and are realer than anything else. And that if I do really believe that and really know that, then I don't need to be the judge. I don't need to worry about justifications. I don't need to plan or try to connect dots for others, or set out retributions in any kind of way, or see how someone's going to get paid back for something, or hold these things in my mind, like ready to attack for later. It's because whenever anything comes up in the moment, if I am connected to my true divinity, if I am really listening to God, to Holy Spirit, and knowing that voice will come through, it will tell me, it will give me the responses needed, that will make the impact, that will close the book, that will shut down the issue, or provide the solution, or give that bridge, or whatever it is needed at the time, that I couldn't even plan, that all of my projections and all of my potentialities out there, that I think the what ifs and the could be's and this response for that and that for that, it wouldn't even match up to it. It's not even going to come into play in the moment. So why bother myself with a clouded forecasting? Right? But for some reason, there is an automaton inside of me going around business, doing on the computer, doing these things, doing these calculations on their books, on their calculator, at their cash register, on all these different levels in my tower. Somehow there's a shadowed person, who hasn't got that message yet, or who got it and just put it aside, and it's... And there again, it's like it all comes back and kicks back at me. You've got more work to do. And that's fine. I'm not trying to present a picture perfect image. I'm not trying to do a final draft set in stone, print and publish and never change the things, However, when you share, when you live a life, you hope to be heard, you hope to be seen. And it's quite frustrating and hard when there's a disconnect there. I am thinking, why did I turn the camera on? Sometimes I think too much. And then there's just this thick layer, just quiet, of just nothingness, of just buffer zone, of no replies, nothing can come in or out. And this is integration and contemplation and assessment. I know I need to give myself the space and time for that to take place, instead of allowing it to turn into, oh, it's disassociation, oh, it's numbing out, oh, you are apathetic, oh no, or we're falling into some sort of slump, some kind of like depression or something like that. I think quiet processing is priceless. It is absolute necessity. But sometimes the world is so busy, it is so chaotic, it is so loud, that I feel like just taking that time out will be too much to get lost. It will be enough to never be heard, to just be looked completely over. And I think that's something I honestly need to just step into and say, so what? What if it is? What if it does? You're still you, and what we've been saying and what you're saying, what everyone knows is that we cannot change others. We can't have an impact on others. The only place and space you have dominion over is your own world, is your inner world. And in fact, that inner world ripples out the casting and projections of what your reality will look like. And so it's imperative to correct and fix and offer a peaceful presence within, to be able to then see those more peaceful options with outside of you, you know? However, the world is at war. I can't say it any better than that. And admitting that and seeing that in the world, it hurts my feelings. It causes this abrupt sort of bubbling over of emotions for me, because that means there's a war going on within me. And I don't want that. I don't want to be a part of it. I don't want to attack. I don't want to be attacked. I don't see a value or a purpose in that. And yet, this quiet voice inside of me, I don't know which it is, because sometimes it's so hard to tell. It's like, if we are at war, how do we respond? If we are, in fact, threatened, where and how should the response come from and reach? Because again, like, if we look out at displays in the world of actual war, it's like you can't just allow someone to harm you. And yet, I mean, do you? such a tightrope walk. It is such a difficult question and answer. There's so much tied up into it, you know. For me, I think I know the answer, but the answer feels so much harder and leaves things unresolved, leaves things to a detrimental hand, which is out of my hands, right? Because if we say all things go, you know, I feel, put ourselves in an unsafe place. Like, here's my throat for everyone with swords. Anyone who ever thought that they might want to go see what a throat looks like, got here I am. But in that offering, what happens when nobody comes? What happens when no one does that to you? You know? We've made a worse mistake. We've propagated and had worse thoughts in our own minds than that of what would really take place, right? And that's been my thinking and my understanding and my sort of truth around positive systems and around light and shadow work and balancing and understanding that everyone actually does want love. Everyone does want to feel good and want what's best for themselves and others, you know? However, there have been times, there's displays, there's evidence. I haven't personally, it hasn't happened to me in a life-ending way, like here's my throat, murder me, for anyone who wants to. But I know that it has taken place out there for others. Humans have done that to others. So to not guard yourself against that seems to me foolish and stupid, right? And we get very programmed into this, and we have all these borders and barricades and checkpoints and things that we do or don't do to protect our neck, you know? But if it's all for nothing, we are again allowing negative systems to rule us around, stepping into them and stepping into these loops for no reason. And yet, take it to a less dramatic version, it's like living with an open heart and trying to see the best in everybody, being fair as you can to everyone, trying to love yourself and love others and speak kindly and offer people compassion and fairness, and yet you're continuously bombarded with people taking advantage of you, liars, gossip, people who seek to show you one thing in your face because they know you're a kind-hearted good person, and then behind your back in other ways plot against you. And things that they do to you, they harm your integrity, they harm your feelings, they harm your day or your energy. not your life, so to speak. It's like they're not going to take your life or come strangle you. But those things that they are doing, they do hurt, they do harm. And it's like, how do people like move through these things? How do we not allow those poison arrows that they shoot to just get into you and sit there and see poison into you? You know? And then pulling them out, snap them off. You try to do healing. Ask God to purge them out. And yet, it's like, more. The more you do, the more they come. And there's always, that age-old saying, God will never give you anything that you're not strong enough to come up against. There's that meme that I love that has that one wolf with like an arrow in it, and it's like ready to die, and then the bigger wolf comes with like 27 arrows all in it, and it's like, bro, you'll get through it. Higher self to yourself now. But it's like those ugly reflections, the evilness out there. It seems exhausting sometimes. But again, I think, myself will tell me that's what they want, And it's like, who is they? Who is they? The adversary, the devil, my shadow, like the archons. My ego. Actual people plotting against me, people with names, people with big noses and tiny hats. I'm not so silly as to try to blame and think that it's like, and yet to just turn inside myself and say, you're the problem, it's you. And it's also, I feel unfair. And it also feels like I then am going there and slicing my own throat. I'm going in there and, wallowing over those arrows inside of me or allowing scar tissue to harden my heart. And I really don't want to do that, I think that hard times creates hard men, and hard men create good times. In a different aspect, it's hard circumstances, create strength. But what kind of strength? I don't want it to build me into some kind of hardened, toughened monster in battle armor, just ready to attack. But to think of the strength, you know, that it takes to be a person like Jesus, you know. All the others, like the saints, the prophets, all these other you know, that's what it takes, that's what it is, but yet they haven't changed anything. Or have they? And I just can't see it. I don't want to see it. I'm stuck in some kind of stubborn mode where I'm too scared to actually be that. Here's my throat open. No matter what happens, I trust and believe. And I know that even if it is somebody who wants to come and slice my throat, that my purpose, my service has been to be that for them so that they could understand the real harm, the real gravity in doing something like that. You know, and then my part is a bigger role in that. You know. But my worry is, are we feeding something greater than some great evil? But if I would believe there's a larger role, if I know there's a benevolent God and a creator, source, father of oversight, seeing all these things, then that greater evil could never, you know, congregate and coagulate into something large enough that its presence is larger than God's presence. It all comes back to, again, my need for control, my need to understand the big plan, my need to know my part in it so then I can feel comfortable in letting go, I guess. And yeah, it's like, but to me, the evidence in front of me, that what I'm seeing in my life, my circumstances, the proof in my pudding is like, I'm doing nothing but getting harmed. I'm doing nothing but hurt. I'm doing nothing but time and time again, slice it with a smile. And then I'm like, oh, well, if I was really living my purpose, if I was really honest with myself and loving my part, it wouldn't be a false smile. It wouldn't be this grin and bear it. It wouldn't be eat it with a smile and having this deep-seated resentment inside still. You know? And it's hello, resentment over what? Please tell me, because I have so much to be grateful for. I have a life that I love. I have literally been moved like a chess piece on the board of life into a place of security and safety, into a means and mode that I live a life where I can get by fine without too much struggle, you know, financially, without too much struggle about survival points, which is before in my life, everything was about survival and financials. And it, you know, it was no peace of mind there. You know, I couldn't stop for a second. And now with having, you know, being able to, now I've gone and found something else to find myself unhappy and dissatisfied with. But at least there's the calm, quiet voice within me that says, that's incorrect. There's an incorrectness here. There's things to let go. There's things still, you know. And that's how it works. You can't get to the pea in the bottom of the mattress layer until you said, this is not under this mattress. Get rid of it. It's still this mattress. I still feel it. Get rid of it. I'm still uncomfortable. Get rid of that one. You know, so even though I thought I was, you know, happily in this comfortable mattress, now something's starting to bother me. And it's just, yeah, it can be frustrating, especially when it's like this. It's a blamable pea. It's some kind of issue. It's a crumb in the bed. It's something so external from me. It's another person. It's other people that I'm surrounded by that I feel are, the disruptions, the catalytic. If I could just be alone, I'd be peaceful. If I could sit in the presence of God all day and be a monk on a mountaintop, I would be all day long. It's these others, it's these people, And yet, no, that's not correct. It's not right for me to do that, because it's an envisionment for me. It's just an unreal expectation of some false destination that I believe I would be happy like a monk up there, because sorry, Allie, you wouldn't be. You're dissatisfied here in the you and the now. You'd be dissatisfied as a monk up there. You'd be finding something to be aggravated about. You'd be mad at yourself, or the wind, or the weather, or the temperature, or God forbid, you'd be mad at your God itself, or something. Anyways, that's my rant. That's my self-expression, my shadow work, behind the scenes. Thanks for listening. I think I don't have anything else really to offer. I don't even have a point as to why I started this video, or what to leave it as. I don't have a solution. I just thought that, I didn't think, actually, just turned the camera on and started, going off. So, thanks for listening. Thanks for witnessing my contribution here to the collective for today. As though this is quite different. This is more stream of consciousness. This is a little bit more personal vloggy than I do videos of. But I do appreciate anyone who's sat with me and listened to me for over 40 minutes talk about nothingness at all. And just be overwhelmed with emotions and try to iron myself out a little bit. But I think, honestly, it's helped. And honestly, I think if it helps me, it might help others. What is my service here except to try to be that expression and live my own expression, I know I have a full service and job in front of me just by being a mother and a wife and living where I live and being given this role at working and living at the same place. It's to be surrounded by guests and people who become neighbors, or people who are even become sort of half friend-like, even though I don't like to get too friendly with guests. It's such a strange. It's something I've never done before in my life. I've always had different, I've had like real jobs, and that comes with a whole other world of problems and things. But anyways, I'm gonna get totally going again, and I can't. I don't have the time this morning. I've got to get going on my job and cleaning. So I'm gonna leave it there. Thank you for listening to me. Catch you next time. Bye for now.